All right, the next step, we are going to configure our system for HTTPS by getting a certificate signed by the lab certificate authority. When we connect, it tells us that there's a potential security risk ahead. And when you see this in the real life, you probably should take a moment and be concerned about what you're trying to connect to. If you're trying to connect to your bank and you see something like that, that's probably a problem. So we want to understand why. So we're going to view the certificate, why this is a problem. We're going to view the certificate, and in this case, it's a problem for many reasons. One reason is we connected by IP address, and it's expecting this certificate is set up for this name. Another reason is it's a self-signed certificate, right? It's signed by the system itself instead of being signed by a trusted security certificate authority. So we're going to work through some steps to make it so that this is a signed certificate that is signed by a trusted security authority. We have some steps on the lab sheet to do that. So we're going to, again, I am already root, so I am not going to be using sudo for these things, but if you are student, you need to either use sudo or become root. So we're going to change to the directory cd etc pki tls private, and then we're going to run this command from the lab sheet that is going to create a private key. So let's see if I can arrange this. Yeah, so OpenSSL is a toolkit that can do a lot of cool stuff related to cryptography. So OpenSSL gen RSA, we're going to make an RSA key dash AES 256 is what algorithm we're going to use. Out is the file we're going to write it to. My sample command says student 15, but you should use whatever student number you're using, and you should know what that means when you get to the lab. I'm going to call mine student99.lab.key.secure. And I'm calling it secure because this is going to create a key that is encrypted. So it's going to ask for a passphrase, so put whatever passphrase you want. Put it again, the same passphrase twice. And now if we look at the file, we have this key file, this base64 encoded text, that is our private key. It says begin encrypted private key. So we have our key now. We're going to go ahead and make a copy of our key that is not encrypted, and there's a command for that in the lab sheet. And the reason we want to copy the key that is not encrypted is because if the key is encrypted, when we restart the web server, the key, it will want the passphrase every time we restart it. So again, we're going to use OpenSSL. This time we're going to use just RSA because we're working with an RSA key. We're not generating one. We're going to tell it what file we want for the input file. That'll be www.student99.lab.key.secure. And we're going to want to tell it where we want it to write the output file. And that'll be www.student99.lab.key. And this should ask us for a passphrase, which I didn't type correctly. So that took the encrypted key and wrote it out in an unencrypted format. So now here's my private key that is not encrypted. So this is in the lab environment on a VM on my computer, so I don't care if you see my private key, but obviously in the real world you need to keep your private key private. So once we get our private key, we need to generate a certificate signing request. First, before that, we need to go edit a file. So most browsers have started requiring a more secure, additional security steps to validate a certificate as being valid. And what they want is they want a subject alt name that matches what the common name of the certificate is. So we have this OpenSSL .conf file that we're going to specify. And what you need to do in this file is you need to go to the bottom and change these two alt names to match your student number. So if you noticed, I went cd dot because openssl.-san.cnf was in the next directory up. So now I am in the TLS directory. I want to go back into the private directory. And now I'm going to run that command that it has in the lab sheet, and it tells you what to put for some of the parameters. So this is going to create a certificate signing request. OpenSSL is a request, new, specify which key to use. We want to use the insecure key. Tell it where we want it to write the CSR, www.student99.lab.csr, and then -config, and we're going to use the config that is one directory up, openssl-san.cnf. So this is going to put us into a dialog to answer some questions. I tell you what to enter on those: state, country name, U.S., state, spell out Pennsylvania, locality, Harrisburg, org name, student, your number, co, and then common name will be the domain name. So U.S., Pennsylvania, Harrisburg, student, 99 co, and then www.student99.lab. So that generated the CSR. So we can use cat to see the CSR, and now we want to copy this. Copy this. And then hopefully I copied that. So then the easiest way to do this is to use the browser on your Linux. And you want to go to ca.cnt.lab/cert-serve. All right, so I forgot I was recording this on my laptop at home using my VPN to get to the CA. So like I said, in class, the easiest way to do this is going to be to open it from the browser on the VM. But since I'm not in class, I'm going to open it from the browser on my other system to show you the steps. Basically, once you connect to the page, you want to request certificate, advanced certificate request, paste in that CSR. You do need the full begin certificate and end certificate lines. Hit submit, and that's going to sign your certificate. We usually do the base 64 encoded version. You click on download certificate, and that's going to download it to the system. If you're doing it on the VM, like I said, you should have done it. It will be in downloads on the VM. All right, so I put my certificate in downloads so I could demonstrate the process as you guys need to do it, even though I didn't download it on the Linux. If you did it on the Linux like you should have, then the certificate will be in home student downloads. We need to put that in the search directory. So I'm currently in the private directory still, so I'm going to go back up to the search directory. So if you are somewhere else, you need to be in etc pki tls certs. And now I'm going to copy that file from home student downloads cert new. I'm going to copy it to the current directory with the name www.student99.lab.crt. That's it, student 00, student99.lab.crt. So now I have the certificate over here, and I need to edit my ssl.conf file to point to the new certificates. So that's back in etc conf.d, I think, ssl.conf. So we want to edit this file. And there's two lines in this file we need to change. They both So this one, change the certificate file. Instead of localhost.cert, we wanted to say www.student99.lab.cert. And then we need to change the key. So instead of localhost.key, we wanted to say student99.lab.key. So that changes the config file, and hopefully from your excellent Linux knowledge from the prerequisite course, you remember that we need to restart Linux services to make changes that went to the text files active. So we'll restart HTTP, and now if we connect to our server over HTTPS, www. Sorry, you can't do that yet. 10.1.1.130. If we see we're still getting an error, but if we look at our certificate is now for the proper name. The issuer is the lab CA, and if we look at the error we're getting the error that says unknown issuer. So if we go back to our certificate authority, we can download a CA certificate. Let's just download the certificate. Cert new one is the name it gave it, and I'm using Firefox, so the Firefox certificate store at current time is separate from the Windows certificate store, so I'm going to go add this to the Firefox certificate store. If you're using a different browser, it might use the Windows certificate store, so you need to add it to that. So I went to the settings, security, found certificates, went down, imported it. I want to trust websites. If we look down here, we'll probably find whatever my CA is called. C&T, so it's in there now. So now in theory, try to connect. We're going to get a different error, hopefully. So we'll refresh, look at advanced. Yeah, so now the error we're getting is bad cert domain. And the reason we're getting that is because we're going by IP address. And if we look at our certificate is valid for student99.lab. And if we look at the alt names, which aren't in here, we had an alt name. Yeah, there they are. It's www.student99.lab and student99.lab. But we went by IP address. So the last step, we're going to want to create a host file entry. All right, so what we want to do is open WordPad as an administrator. Basically, if you click on Start and type WordPad and then right-click on it, Run as Administrator will be an option. And then it will come up with administrative privileges. And then you want to go open a file. It's going to be in C, Windows, drivers, not drivers. What's on the lab sheet? Why don't I go look at the lab sheet? Windows System 32 drivers. Windows System 32 drivers. Very weird place for this file. Etsy. And it's not showing anything, so we want to see all files. And we want to edit the host file. So we'll open that. And down here, we can make a host file entry. A host file is a file that can be used to essentially fake DNS, put names in place of DNS. So we'll save that. So now we have a host file entry for our student99 domain. So now hopefully if we put in the domain name, it'll work. And we didn't get an error. So that was the end state of this lab. You should be able to connect to your system from locally using the 399.lab domain name and not get an error. We can go verify the certificate if we want to view the certificate and see that it is the correct certificate. So you should also verify checking from the outside. There'll be test stations set up for you to test connecting from the outside. So you should connect from the outside, and from the outside you'll be using the NAT address to connect from the outside.